Welcome everyone to House TRW. We are going to call this meeting to order, and with that, we'll call roll.
Representative Campbell, Representative Connolly, Representative Harshman,
Excused.
Representative Jarvis,
Here.
Representative Provenza,
Here.
Representative Storer, Representative Thayer,
Here.
Representative Wharf,
Excused.
Chairman Byron.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Committee, we are first going to take up Senate File 25. Make sure you have the engrossed version and those online that may be watching. This was a bill that came out of our interim. Go to the second page. Line 7, the commission may promulgate rules to limit the number of landowner license issued pursuant to this subsection in any limited quota hunt area. Under no circumstances shall the commission issue 0 landowner licenses in limited quota areas if there are applications from eligible landowners. So committee, with that, I'm actually going to go right to the agency and ask the director to come up and chat about Senate File 25. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Good to be with you today. Angie Bruce, Wyoming Game and Fish Director. And I'll be very brief. We spent quite a bit during the interim session talking about this, and I know you have quite a bit on your plate today. So I'll just reiterate just a couple points that you've heard me say before. 2022, the governor's Wildlife Task Force recommended to the Game and Fish Commission that a limit on the number of landowner license be issued. However, the commission did not have the authority to do that. After a 3-year extensive review of the eligibility requirements for landowner licenses that include proposed changes, the commission landed on the same conclusion that a landowner license or cap may be helpful. If the authority or tool is given to the commission through the passing of this bill, the commission may, but does not have to, set a limit on landowner license. They've had some discussion on when or how that may be used, but if given this authority, they would follow the same process required by law to involve the public in that discussion, along with their regular season setting procedures. So with that, I'll just stand for any questions.
Thank you, Director. And Director, I'm just looking, I imagine you monitored this on the other side of the building. Piers, and I have the original amendment. This came out of probably was it a standing committee amendment or was it brought once it got onto the floor? And if you can't answer that, no big deal, just for my committee's knowledge. Representative Provenza, you may shed some light on that if the director can't.
Mr. Chairman, they were included and adopted on the floor.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Committee, any Representative Provenza, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director, so the language on line 10, page 2, under no circumstances shall the commission issue 0 landowner licenses. I would just like to know how that impacts you. I mean, I imagine there's always potential that maybe we need to limit the number of licenses across the board in an area because of a harsh winter, whatever reason, right? So if you could just kind of speak to that and how that might impact your agency's decision-making in terms of licensing quotas.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, that's a very good question. When that amendment was put on, we sort of paused a little bit because we still don't have one of our areas having any antelope license issued in one of the areas due to the bad winter. So does that make us therefore issue them? We sort of took it as limited quota areas. We define that. So if there's no license issued, it would not be that, and therefore it would not apply. So we wouldn't have to give out one to a landowner because that amendment was put in place. Yeah, the question might be though, if we have no landowners eligible in a limited quota area, what do we do?
Thank you, Director. Committee, any other questions of the Director? Thank you, Representative Provenza, for that. It does sound like there's a comfort level there from the agency. Committee, any other questions? Yes, Representative Provenza.
Thank you. Do you have any areas where you think this applies now? That this amendment that came from the Senate would impact?
That's a good question. I don't think so.
I have
Justin?
phone a friend here, yeah.
Yeah. Dan Smith, Chief of Wildlife, couldn't be with us today. He took off for a meeting. So I have Deputy Chief of Wildlife, Justin Benfit. You guys heard him talk about our mule deer issues a few meetings back. So Justin, do you have some perspective you could give?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Representative Provenza, could you repeat the question just to ensure I understand?
Yeah, thank you. So I'm looking at the language on page 2, lines 10 through 13. Under no circumstances shall the commission issue 0 landowner licenses in limited quota areas. I guess my question is, are there areas right now that currently exist that are impacted by this particular language? So is there an area where maybe the best science would recommend that we shouldn't be there shouldn't be a tag, or someone's not applying, that would be impacted by this language as it's written today?
Please, and make sure your mic's green there. Thank you.
Yeah, Chairman Byron, Representative Provenza. So we do have some areas with very, very low license issuance. For example, following the 22-23 winter, there are areas where we've only issued 10 pronghorn licenses. And so in those cases, there may not, I guess I'm not sure I can actually answer that question today, now that I think about it, just because it would depend on who's qualifying in those areas under those very rare circumstances.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Provenza. Committee, any other questions of the department? Department, any more comments from you?
Nope, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Director. All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. I will ask any electeds in the room that want to come speak on this bill first. Any electeds? Any other agencies? Seeing none. Any members of the public? Please come up, fill the chairs if you want to speak on this, and check to see if we have. I'm going to have one online we'll get to here in a moment. But yeah, if you want to come introduce yourself, welcome to House TRW.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Jess Johnson, Wyoming Wildlife Federation. I'll keep it real short because you guys heard from us throughout the interim on this. Very supportive of this. I think this is just a good sense authority to hand to the commission when they have to deal with this kind of sort of conflict between hunters and landowners. We want to just make sure that we smooth it over as much as we can so we can get back to working on the 98% of things we agree on.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Committee, any questions of Ms. Johnson? Representative Provenza, please.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, what are your thoughts on the amendment that came from the Senate?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, we didn't see an issue with it. I think if there was something, maybe I would defer to what the department said on that one, but initially we didn't find a problem with it.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Committee, any other questions of Ms. Johnson? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. McGagnon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim McGagnon with the Wyoming Stockgrowers Association. And we understand and support the need for the commission to have some authority to set some limits. There needs to be some balance between the sportsmen and the landowners receiving landowner licenses. At the same time, I think it's critical that we remember why we have landowner licenses. And those were established 40 years ago by the Wyoming legislature to recognize the critical role that landowners play in providing habitat for our wildlife. And I think they've been part of an ongoing effort that we work to build strong relationship with the game and fish and with the sports community in the state. Things change over time. And I certainly understand that today there's consternation because some lands are being divided just to acquire landowner licenses. That was not the intent of that original legislation. Lands being acquired by out-of-state interests, good people, but was that really what we intended? So our position at this point would be that perhaps the best approach would be not to even move this bill forward, but to make this an interim topic to study the relationship between landowners and wildlife habitat and how that relationship can best be recognized and properly rewarded. And perhaps landowner licenses are a part of that. Perhaps there's other ways to better do that. I think the topic in today's world needs further explanation than just a limit on landowner licenses. Now, if you do decide to go forward with this legislation, we would urge two things. First, we would urge that you reject the Senate amendment. We think it's just kind of almost foolish to say, well, they have to issue one in every case. Leave the discretion. If there's not enough available to issue a reasonable number to landowners, then what do you do with one except antagonize all the other landowners against the one that got a license? We have proposed to you an amendment, which you've seen before. I know we brought it to this committee before. It was in a bill that came from the Ag Committee of setting that at 40%, because we think that gives the commission a lot of flexibility, but still respects the role of the intent of landowner licenses to recognize the contribution of private landowners to wildlife habitat. And even though we and you look at this on a statewide basis, we have to think of it in terms of hunt areas. If in one hunt area, no landowner can get a landowner's license, or only two of them, the fact that in another hunt area where there's less demand, they get 80% of them, that's not properly recognizing the role of those particular landowners in providing habitat. So we would encourage the amendment that I've provided to you that simply sets it at 40% and provides that it has to be done for the purposes of making adequate licenses available to the public, not for some other ancillary reason that isn't being contemplated at this point in time. As I say, the alternative would be, or maybe even in addition, would be to look more in depth at this whole landowner relationship, and in today's climate, how can it best be recognized? How can landowners best be rewarded for their contribution? With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be pleased to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Magagna. Tracking that amendment, certainly can consider that if, depending on the will of the committee. Mr. Magagna, you certainly opened up a number of different topics in that comment, and I want to dig a little deeper. Why do you think, in this landowner license discussion and the potential of transferable tags, which is ultimately what some of this is getting at, do you see any solutions? Obviously the big one right now is, and it seems like it's going to come back potentially in future legislative sessions. Have you had discussions with your members about, if we have an issue with wildlife and there might be too many critters on the landscape, have you talked to any of them about opening up to outfitting? I mean, it baffles me that we're talking about maybe selling one or two licenses to try to solve a solution. And with the free market taking over, once the few years after those critters start to get harvested, I think that other landowners will opt into the program, take advantage of the money. But I really see an opportunity for outfitting to help drive this conversation and really affect the amount of critters that are on that ranch. And have you had that discussion with your members? Have you talked about it with anyone? I'm just curious.
Well, Mr. Chairman, certainly we talk with our members a lot about what are other sources of revenue they can bring to the ranching operation, because it's not quite true this year, but prior to this year, the cow didn't pay for the bills. And so outfitting is one of those that we certainly keep out there and keep in front of them. And many of them do that. Perhaps there are more that could do so. Now, part of what you said there, I wondered if you were referring to the effort to get transferable landowner licenses, which isn't part of the discussion today. But if that were to go forward at some point, I think it needs to go forward with specific requirements for access to be able to hunt those animals. One just thought I've had, I've not run it through our membership, or that is that if we allowed a transferable landowner license, you either had to grant significant access or donate part of the profits to the Access Yes program to enable the Game and Fish to better manage that program. Because I just read the numbers here the last 2 days that Game and Fish put out on the amount of access they've been able to provide this year through the Access Yes program. And that's certainly very significant. But to the extent that landowners can't get landowner licenses, then in terms of getting some economic return, they're incentivized to do something like require Access Yes payments in order to grant access, where if they're getting some other returns that are inadequate, then they're more encouraged to grant some hunting opportunities to maintain and control the wildlife population without requiring a payment from Game and Fish to do so.
Thank you, Mr. McGagnon. Committee, any other questions? Mr. McGagnon, Representative Provenza, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McGagna, I guess part of my concern with the 40% is, we have some areas where there's 59 tags. Landowners are getting 40% as it stands, but the public draw percentage is 3.9%. And I don't think that that more than 40% of the land is owned by landowners. So how am I going to reconcile with my hunters that they have a 3.9% draw, but if they own land, they could have 40% when we have people coming and buying land for the purposes of having hunting access?
Mr.
Mr.
McGagnon.
Chairman, Representative Provenza, that's a valid point that you raise. And when the Wildlife Task Force was meeting, we, along with the then Game and Fish Director, had proposed to the task force increasing the acreage requirement for landowner licenses as one way to deal with the very issue that you're talking about. Because in the days 40 years ago, when those were created, there weren't many people who had only 160 acres of private land. A few cases, but in most cases, much more than that. So I think those are issues that need to be addressed. I don't think this is the appropriate way to address them. I think they can be addressed, hopefully working with the commission to the extent that there's things that they wouldn't have the authority to address, then we would come back to this committee again with some added proposals. But it is an issue that deserves further consideration.
Thank you, Mr. McGagnon. To shed some light on that, there was a very good effort, good faith effort put forward last year in some of those additional discussions around acreage. So Representative Campbell, you still have a question? Committee, any other questions of Mr. McGagna? Thank you, Mr. McGagna. Appreciate that. Please, familiar face, introduce yourself for those on Zoom and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brett Moline, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation, echoing much of the same comments that my esteemed colleague with the stock growers, Mr. McGagna, has said. This guaranteeing of one is too low. The 40% we can live with, but we'd also, with that if the 40% are not taken by landowners, and those would become available to the draw. So if there's 40 licenses and only 30 of them are applied for by landowners, the other 10 would go out to the general public. I would expound a little bit more on your question, Mr. Chairman, about, using outfitting. With my members, it runs the gamut. Some of them do utilize outfitting, and then some of the outfitters have a hard time getting licensed customers. So that ebbs and flows. Some of my members have spent 30 years developing a clientele that they manage it themselves. So it runs the gamut. Some of my members have utilized the Access Yes program. Some of it, it's worked beautifully. And other ones, it hasn't worked very good at all. So everything runs the gamut. We've tried everything. But I think as Mr. McGagna said, this is a reward for landowners having wildlife. This is a reward for that. And in my tenure and my different jobs, I think I've maybe met one landowner that does not appreciate wildlife. Almost all of them tremendously appreciate wildlife, and they work to help manage it. They work with the local Game and Fish. We've got too many. We need more hunters. We don't have enough. That's why I'm not allowing hunting. So right now, there's a pretty good relationship. That hasn't always been the case, but where we are now, the relationship is pretty good. But I would rather see in statutes a minimum that goes to landowners, with the caveat that if it's not used by landowners, then it's made to the general public, or to whoever's applying, not to the general public. But anyways, Mr. Chairman, as the bill stands now, not in favor of it. And I would take any questions you or the committee may have for me.
Thank you, Mr. Moline. And I will take an opportunity it continues to baffle me to have members and colleagues come to us with this idea of a landowner, the sale of a landowner license, when a very easy solution, and I've asked them if they've considered this, and I have not heard that any of them have, is to control a lot more critters, would be to hire an outfitter, have a pretty good steady source of income, and be able to control those critters on that landscape. So I appreciate you, discussing a couple different points as it does actually relate to this bill. Representative Campbell, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Might need Game and Fish to weigh in on this too. And I thank both of you, because during our conversations with the task force, spent a significant amount of time on this. So I think conversations between the task force 4 or 5 years ago through the interim that we spent on this and the other committees spent on this. My question, I guess, for each of you is the intent, right, is to give the commission the authority to set that cap, primarily because of the number of meetings and the interaction they have, the direct interaction they have with stakeholders that maybe legislatively we don't have. So I guess if we did not include the 40% or the, shall not issue 0, if that was removed and we're just giving them the authority to then best decide what hesitations or concerns you have with that.
That was semi-directed at the department, but also feel free, Mr. Moline, to comment on that.
Chairman, Representative, this is going to sound a lot harsher than I mean it. The relationship between landowners and the commission, the Game and Fish Commission and the department, has not always been at the good spot that it is now. There used to be a lot more antagonism amongst people that have wildlife than the ones that manage them. So a little bit, I understand that we could do this through rule, but many times in statutes to protect against a relationship that could go south, which it has been there. It's not there now, but it could go there again. That's why we think a floor of a percentage, and solid, we've kind of settled on 40% is the figure that we've been batting around, but it would feel much safer having that in statute rather than just rules. If that makes sense, ma'am. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Mr. Moline. Mr. Magagna, please.
Mr. Chairman and Representative Campbell, 2 things, I think. One is that's the reason, the bill as it stands today with the Senate amendment, it's sort of an invitation to say, as long as you issue 1 license, you've done your job, you've done your duty. And I think that's really a mistake. Without that language in there, at least the commission, if they didn't get 40%, says we've got the total responsibility. I think what's important is to justify that. We would like to have a floor, and 40 may not be the right number, but I think if you look at the amendment I provided, equally important is the second part of it, when deemed necessary to maintain public hunting opportunities, so that if the commission reduces landowner licenses, they're not doing it for some other purpose that they may come up with. They're doing it only when it can be justified as necessary to maintain public hunting opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. Magagna. Representative Connolly, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is to both presenters. How did you arrive at the 40%?
Mr. Magagna, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was actually attending a commission meeting in Saratoga last year. This was before they had been advised by the Attorney General that they didn't have the authority to put a limit beyond what was available. And the commission was going to put a limit on, and they had proposed 20%. And I got up and spoke, and with the point being that I thought that was not adequate and encouraged them to do 40, and then they became willing to do 40 until they were told they didn't have the authority to do it. So that's where that evolved from. And I've just tried to be consistent by staying with the same number, not changing it all the time.
Representative Connolly, is that any follow-up? Nope, great. All right. Committee, any other questions of these 2 gentlemen? Thank you both. Yep. Public comment in the room. Anyone else in the room that would like to talk about engrossed Senate File 25? Seeing none, we're going to go online. If Carrie Peters could be let in, invited in,
Mr. Chairman, she's been invited into the room.
perfect. Carrie, when you get in, please go ahead and unmute your mic and chat with us so we know technology is working. Welcome, Carrie. Can you hear us? Looks like it says it's connecting to audio. Go ahead and unmute yourself on our end. It looks like you're muted.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you. Thanks.
Wonderful. I tried to get my video to go. I don't know if you can see me, but at least you can hear me. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to comment. You already know my name, Carrie Peters, but I'm a farmer and rancher landowner in Park County. I would like to echo the comments made by the Stock Growers and Farm Bureau. I would like to ask this committee to please reject the Senate amendment and bring an amendment as proposed by the Stock Growers that at least 40% of the tags be designated to landowners. I really do want to, I want to say that I appreciate the way this committee handled the corner crossing bill. It went from being something I did not agree with at all to something that had sideboards and was in line with the 10th Circuit. And I was actually really glad to see that pass the TRW this morning and the Senate TRW. And I feel like that's what compromise looks like. And so back to Senate File 25, I think we all agree that it's not fair for landowners to potentially get 100% of the tags in an area. But this bill, the way it's written, swings the pendulum too hard the other way. I think there's temptation to try and lump all the landowner tag issues together and solve it in this one bill by basically just gutting the program. And I would ask the committee to resist doing that. As you've already heard, the intent of this program is to show appreciation to the landowners, namely the ag producers, for what they provide for the public's wildlife. I think we can also all agree that there's been pretty intense animosity between sportsmen and landowners the past couple of years. And by amending this bill, I think it sends a message to landowners that they are still valued, while at the same time acknowledging that sportsmen do need to have a balanced opportunity to hunt for sure. I understand these issues are complicated and that we should give some discretion to the Game and Fish Commission, but I fear they will simply default to whomever screams the loudest at any moment. And as Mr. Moline stated, I think by setting a minimum floor, I just really think he did a great job of conveying, the reasons for that. And I would just add, it takes out some of the contention on both sides and still gives the commission the ability to adjust. A provision to reevaluate this a few years down the road could be included. I will close by saying that I saw a headline in the Billings Gazette a couple days ago titled, "More Montana Landowners Opt to Keep Hunters Out." That same sentiment is brewing in Wyoming. And if we can work on good compromises as compared to heavy cuts and drastic swings, the temperature will start to decrease, I think, and everyone will benefit from that. So thank you, and I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Peters. Committee, any questions? Any questions? I will say that the body will always have opportunities in future years to modify legislation. So I get where you're going with that, but I do believe in that. Committee, any questions? Thank you, Ms. Peters, for taking your time today and commenting on this. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment on Senate File 25. And committee, what is your pleasure? Moved by Representative Provenza. Do we have a second? Seconded by Representative Campbell. Let's work the bill, committee. Make sure you're on the gross copy. Yep, we're looking good on the gross copy. Page 1. Anything on page 1. Hop into the meat of the bill on page 2. Do we have any amendments on page 2? Representative Provenza, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to amend this at this time. I want to have further conversations with the commission, but I'm a little concerned about this question of what happens if no landowners apply. And I just want to make sure that we're not hamstringing our department. In terms of the other amendments that have been brought to us, we had this conversation over the summer. And the conversation was when we put this sort of complication into how we do tags in Wyoming, we take away the good science and evidence that that the agency uses to ensure that our tags are reflecting what is best for our wildlife. I think everybody in the state of Wyoming sees wildlife as an asset and sees wildlife as something that we should protect for future generations. And when we start putting in what I would argue is a political amendment for 40%, because that's what landowners want, but maybe it's not supported by the best practices, I don't think we're going down the right path. I can understand that landowners want to have more of the landowner tags, but the argument that this amendment that the Senate put in says that, you can give one and be done with it isn't true. And I don't think that the agency is in the business of making landowners angry right now. So unless I get some clear and convincing evidence that that's the case, I'm going to trust my agency, and I want to thank them for their work. The comment about the bill that we sent over to the other side of the hall this morning, I don't feel like it was much of a compromise, Mr. Chairman. You might feel different. I thought that what this committee did was the compromise between both sides, and now I think we're kind of bending over backwards for one side, but not really weighing the costs to the other very well if we move forward with a 40% amendment. I think I'm going to potentially leave this clean unless the agency tells me that this really puts us in a bind, but we do need to put a cap on. I mean, as I stated, we've got areas where the public draw percent is in the single digits, but landowners are getting 40. So.
Thank you, Representative Provenza. On to Senate File 25, which that was mostly on Senate File 25. Any amendments on Senate File 25? Any amendments? Representative Campbell, please.
Thank you, Chair. Based on extensive conversations with the task force and between now and then, I'm going to move that on page 2, line 10, about partway through that sentence. So it says any limited quota hunt area, period, strike the rest. The reason being, the intent of the discussions during the task force and since then was to give the commission the authority to set a cap. And then they will have to follow the process. for
Representative
going-
Campbell, let's see if we get a second
Oh,
on that, and then we
okay.
can certainly
And
have
then
more
if
discussion.
we
Let's
can
keep
talk
this
about
tight. All right. It's been, the motion's been made. Representative Provenza has seconded it. Now you are welcome
I
to
can.
keep, and there'll be some discussion on this. And this, for the committee is the exact amendment our colleagues down the hallway put in. And I think that was actually provided to us. So it would be going back to the original bill form, that came out of the interim. Please.
Now I can. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the reason, yes, is based on the extensive amount of time we spent on the task force. And then since then, truly the intent was to give the commission the authority and then to work through the process because they go into all of those areas, work with Game and Fish, get public input on a consistent basis. So in terms of landowners and sportsmen, having access to have those conversations and determine what is best for each area, that was the intent. Having it set legislatively, we don't meet that often and don't have the opportunities for the public landowners and sportsmen to weigh in. So I think the original intent that did come out of the task force was to give them the authority and then trust in the process. So that's the reason for my amendment.
Committee, any conversation on that amendment? Representative Jarvis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question is, when we look at it, in the original bill prior to the Senate's amendment, does it not give the commission the ability to limit landowner licenses?
They don't have the authority.
But this bill would give them that authority.
Correct.
So do we even need that part of the amendment in there? if the bill already does that?
I think that's the exact discussion that we're contemplating right now.
And because that was my question is like, doesn't it already exist up here
Mhm.
without coming out and saying that?
Committee, any other comments on the proposed amendment? Any other comments? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote on the amendment. Everyone's clear on it. On page 2, line 10, after area, we go ahead and strike the remainder of the bill through line 13. You have that? That'd be great. Thank you. We're gonna do it by a show of hands. All in favor of that, go ahead and raise your hand. Those opposed, raise your hand. That amendment passes. We're back on the bill. Committee, any other questions on any other amendments on the bill? Any other amendments? Representative Storr, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to try to float this out. I don't know quite whether it adds value or not, but I think we could add in language after the period on page 2, line 10, a statement that says, the commission may issue landowner licenses in limited quota areas where deemed necessary to maintain public hunting opportunities consistent with attaining wildlife management objectives. It's kind of acknowledging that maintaining public hunting opportunities is important, but they should be considered within attaining those wildlife management objectives, and just kind of gives it a little bit of color.
Was there a motion made?
Motion made.
Okay. Do we have a second? Seconded by Representative Provenza. Let's make sure our good staff has that. Oh, we gotta, please, Representative Storr.
One more time?
Yeah, repeat that. Just slow it down.
Sure. So it would read, the commission may issue landowner licenses in limited quota areas when deemed necessary to maintain public hunting opportunities consistent with attaining wildlife management objectives.
Libby, are we good with that now?
Mr. Chairman, I have up until maintain public hunting opportunities.
Consistent with attaining wildlife management objectives. It's just kind of putting in statute what I think the department tries to do.
Mr. Chairman, may I repeat what I have?
Yes, please.
After area period on page 2, line 10, the commission may issue landowner licenses in limited quota areas when deemed necessary to maintain public hunting opportunities consistent with attaining wildlife management missing loss objectives.
Thank you, Representative Storr. That has been seconded by Representative Provenza. Discussion on that committee. Representative Campbell.
It might be because my brain is, oh, thank you, Mr. Chair, that my brain is not following, but the addition of that seems to me to say that they may issue licenses when those two objectives are met, which was not the intent of landowner licenses to begin with. It was, the intent was to recognize their contribution in providing habitat and resources for the public resource. And that seems to change the intent. So now it would just be landowner licenses may be issued if those two, and that seems to be a disconnect for me.
More discussion committee on that. Representative Storr, do you want to comment on that?
No, I appreciate Representative Campbell's comments. And I think I was just trying to recognize Mr. McGagne's concept of somehow
I do
without
appreciate that,
putting a
Representative.
floor.
Yeah, I do also appreciate that attempt. Let's let some folks catch up here. I think we have a first or a motion and a second. Committee, any other discussions on Representative Storr's motion? Any points of clarity? We're going to go ahead and vote on that motion. All those in favor, go ahead and say aye. Those opposed, no. No, that does not does not advance. Thank you. I do. I know where you're going with that. Maybe we could make another swing at it when we head upstairs if this bill moves forward. With that, any other amendments, committee? Representative Connolly, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I feel like I have to do this. Page 2, line 13, after subsection, insert not less than 20% of the available licenses. Page 2, line 14, after area, insert when deemed necessary to maintain public hunting opportunities.
Well, we have that amendment, so I think we'll be clear with that. That has been distributed, but she did strike 40 to 20. Am I correct? Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Seconded by Representative Thayer. Discussion. Representative Thayer, please.
I just want, Mr. Chairman, this amendment sheet, shouldn't it be page 2, line 9?
Page 2, line 10.
And page 2, line 10, just for clarification. So it says after subsection, not less, so I'm just clarity is that's page 2, line 9 and page 2, line 10 is where that should be inserted.
Got that? Friendly, yep. Yep, we're good with Ellis. All right. Thanks for that clarity, Representative Thayer. Committee, any other questions on that? It's in our packet as provided, but we are going from 40 down to 20. Any comments? Representative Provenza, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, I think we passed an amendment earlier that made sure that we allowed the agency to make these determinations based on the information that they had. And when we put in a 20%, we're walking back away from that. Certainly, if we pass this legislation and we hear complaints, then I'm happy to have that conversation, but I have no reason to not trust the agency to do the job that they need to do.
Thank you, Representative Provenza. Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think part of the reason that 40 kind of became the number, as we went through discussions on the task force, there was such a variance between where you could go 11% to 23% to 35% to 37%. And so to get above all of those, we tossed around the 40% to be more inclusive of all of those areas, and then realized, we were doing exactly what we didn't want to do. And that was to give the legislature, the setting that when it really was giving them the authority to do so.
Committee, any other questions or comments on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. All those opposed, no. No, that amendment does not carry. Back on the bill. I appreciate that attempt. Back on the bill. Representative Jarvis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I propose that we just reject the Senate amendment altogether and we honor the bill.
We've done that.
Okay, is that, so it didn't go to that first
Nope, it's,
sentence? That didn't go through?
that is
Okay,
stricken. Okay.
perfect. That's,
Any other amendments on the bill? Seeing none, I think if anyone would like to comment, please do it quickly. If not, we'll call for the question. Okay, I do appreciate it getting back to the interim and taking it upstairs. Do you have a comment? No, cue your mic. Folks need to hear it.
so I want to be clear, the section where it says the commission may promulgate rules to limit the number of landowner licenses issued pursuant to the subsection in any limited quota hunt area failed?
That is in the bill. After area, we then strike the remainder of the bill.
Okay, that's what I would like to amend. I would like to just strike that.
Strike
Right.
what?
That,
Representative Provenza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Representative Jarvis, let's do this on the public microphone. Thank you. The commission, so this is the new language. This is new language. The rest of this is in statute. So if you were to strike all of this, the bill doesn't exist. It then doesn't give them what they need to create the caps.
That
So-
was my clarifying question before, so
What
that
we've-
makes sense.
Yeah, what we've done is strike the language that was new from the Senate, and we've gone back to what we have from.
From the interim that we
interim
worked.
committee.
Thank you for that clarity. Okay, question being called. We're going to go ahead and take a roll call vote on Senate File Engrossed 25.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote on Senate File 25 engrossed as amended. Representative Campbell,
Aye.
Representative Connolly, Representative Harshman, Representative Jarvis,
Aye.
Representative Provenza,
Aye.
Representative Storer,
Aye.
Representative Thayer,
Aye.
Representative Worf,
Representative Worf left a no vote.
Chairman Byron.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you, committee, for that. We are going to go on to Senate File 26, Game and Fish Property Tax exemption amendments. I might have my good co-chair, wake him up. He's taking a nap down there. Come up just in case we do have any, or sorry, not my co-chair right here. Co-chair on the other side of the body. No, Harshman is not napping. Come on forward. And folks, this is a bill that actually came my first term and made it through. And boy, have I received some fire for not letting it through last term. But we have a good little bill here that is now in good shape. And Senator, would you like to talk about this Senate file and then we can get moving on it?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity. Not much to say other than this is an old friend. It ran through the Senate very, very quickly because I think the committee during the interim made sure that it was fixed up and ready to go. All this does is pull the Game and Fish up on a par with all the other agencies in state government. I think we're in a good position with the assessors out across the state. So I think it's ready to go, Mr. Chairman. Going to be beneficial to our department for sure.
Thank you, Senator Landon. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Please, if the department would like to come up and comment on Senate File 26. And then for those in the room, get ready. I'm going to open up pretty quickly to public testimony and we might have a few online. So please, Director, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Here with me today is the Chief of Services, Sean Bippy, in case there's any questions that I need help with as well. I'll be very succinct because we have talked about this before. Currently on all of our commission-owned properties, we pay about $850,000 a year in taxes. If this bill were to pass, that would cut that expense about in half. What it would cover is our headquarters office here in Cheyenne, our 8 regional offices. We have a field office in Buffalo and our National Bighorn Sheep Center in Du Bois. In the past, we had some discussion regarding game warden houses and if they'd fall into this or not. We have over 100 houses and 49 of those are game warden houses. And the conversation around that is, are they an office or are they a house? And in Senate committee, we had some good feedback from our assessors and they viewed it as they would assess those still as residential. So we're looking at this bill not covering those. But then again, that would be up to their interpretation. So again, cutting our property taxes right at about 50%, what we pay now.
Thank you, Director. Any further insight from? Okay, committee, any questions of Game and Fish? Yes, Representative Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to help me understand the history, as I understand it, Game and Fish, like most other agencies and departments, was part of the general fund and has now moved off of and is self-reliant primarily because it's funded by sportsmen and anglers. So what I'm understanding is that dollars revenue provided by our sportsmen and anglers that are specifically, I mean, the purpose is to help Game and Fish, right? Manage those resources. We're now using those dollars to pay taxes. If you
Mr.
would
Chairman.
help me understand,
Director,
that
please.
is the direction of things.
That is correct, Representative. Our entire budget comes from hunting and anglers, as well as some other issues like grants, and then our excise tax on guns, ammo, fishing lures. So yes, this would be coming right out of those expenses to pay taxes.
Thank you for that clarity. Committee, any other questions of the department? Representative Storer and then Representative Thayer, you'll be next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Director Bruce. I know that you have built some additional employee housing in Teton County. And those, if they're at fair market value, that is a considerable new burden, it would seem, on the department. Do you have an estimate of what that might run?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I'll turn it over to Chief Bippy here. We have not paid taxes on those houses yet. And hoping that though, a lot of our housing that is on our wildlife management areas are considered an ag value tax, what we pay on them. But Sean, do you have something else to add?
Please, Chief.
Thank you, Chairman Byron, Representative Storr. So Director Bruce is correct. We haven't received a tax bill on those houses just yet. My understanding is we will be getting them for the following year here. We don't have an estimate on those. However, our thought process, and maybe there will be some discussion there with the local assessor about how those are taxed, is typically within the statute, that ag value tax. So those homes would be on the ranch, so to speak. They're not individually subdivided with their own lots, so to speak. So it's not like we would turn around and have the ability to just sell those piecemeal. The intent of those is simply for employee housing on the larger piece of property.
Thank you. Representative Thayer. Committee, any other questions of the department? Representative Jarvis.
And you guys may not be able to answer this, but, or you may, I guess my question is how do we, as a state, tax other agencies for employee housing?
Do you want to take a
all of
swing
our
at that,
other
Director?
agencies.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Representative, as I understand it, we are, other state agencies are paying taxes on employee housing.
Thank you. Committee, any other questions? Appreciate it. With that, any other agencies that want to comment on this, please? I was hoping that was going to happen. Any other agencies, please get ready, and then we'll go ahead and open this up for public comment.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Ken Gill with the Department of Revenue, Property Tax Division. Nice to be in front of travel. We don't see travel very often, so. Just to clear one thing up on the housing, the question from Representative Storr. Yes, that land is valued as agricultural, but the houses will be valued at market value and residential or commercial if they're an apartment building or something like that. So the improvements are valued like any other improvement, whether they sat on an ag parcel or not.
Thank you for that clarity. Representative Storr, follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to follow up a little bit. So, and I think the language in statute currently says that, right? That they will be valued at fair market value, correct?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Storr, that is correct. That's in the special tax found in 3913, 103,
105 or 103. Yeah.
103, Romanet 12A.
Representative Storr?
No.
Okay. Committee, any other questions? Thank you for that clarity. I think we're good there. Really appreciate that.
And Mr. Chairman, on other state housing, to the other question there, if you look at 3911, 105, Romanet 2, that's the exemption for state-owned property. And our statutes are kind of weird when it comes to governmental entities. The state, it says everything is exempt when used as a governmental purpose. And then it says this is not a governmental purpose, and employee housing is one of those.
Thank you. And really, thank you for being here to answer those questions today. We love when you're in front of House TRW.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll stand for any questions.
Committee, any questions? Appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open this up for public comment on Senate File 26. If you're here to comment on Senate File 26, please come fill the chairs. Ms. Johnson, welcome back.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'll keep this pretty short and sweet. I know there's a lot of bills on the docket we all want to get to, but I did want to make the point here of how incredible it is that we are able to sort of continue to find ways to make this budget for the game and fish a little bit bigger, as it's been, the one exception that I have to something I heard is that the agency is self-sufficient. And the only addition I would say to that is that you all still hold the purse strings because you set the license costs and you set the prices for what that is. And so when those don't change, the budget doesn't change, and they are back in front of you having to deal with, finding money where they can. I will say that our department has done an absolutely incredible job shaking that tree and finding anywhere that they can streamline and make this work. This is one of those bills that's easy to support, I think, in that, and there's a good balance in that, it's not the employee housing, but it is the sort of public use areas. And so we would stand in really firm support of this bill. And I will say that I think there is lots to be done about getting creative about how we look at this budget, because you all, when it does not grow, the work remains the same and the prices go up. And at some point, we're going to start losing the good work on the ground because we can't afford to do it.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. And I think we're going to have further discussion about that maybe on Tuesday. Committee, any questions of Ms. Johnson? Appreciate that. Please introduce yourself.
Chairman, members of the committee, Alex Aguirre, representing the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. I'll also keep it brief. We stand in support of this bill. I think my fellow hunters and anglers would like to see our dollars, go to managing our wildlife and fisheries. I'll stand for any questions.
Appreciate that. Committee, any questions of? No questions being seen. We'll continue on. Thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I will also keep it quick. Anna Kaufman with the Wyoming Outdoor Council. We also sit in support of this bill. We just see it as a great way to support the good work that our agency does by bringing parity with other agencies, really, where they're not paying taxes on those headquarters buildings, those office buildings that are very much used for a governmental purpose. So we'll sit for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Committee, any questions, Ms. Kaufman? Seeing none, really appreciate that. Anyone else in the room? Seeing none, I don't have anyone online on this one, so we're going to go ahead with that and close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure on Senate File 26? Everyone move the bill. I'm going to give that one to Representative Thayer, and it was seconded by Representative Connolly. Let's go ahead and work the bill, committee. Clean bill came over, clean white copy of the bill came over from the Senate. As my good vice chair used to tell me in revenue, it's a good clean white copy. Page 1, any amendments? Page 2, any amendments? Page 3, any amendments? Page 4, any amendments? Good, because there isn't a page 4. With that question being called, with that, we'll take a roll call on Senate File 26.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call vote on Senate File 26. Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Connolly. Representative Harshman. Representative Jarvis.
Aye.
Representative Provenza.
Aye.
Representative Storer. Representative Thayer.
Aye.
Representative Wharf.
Representative Wharf left an aye vote.
Chairman Byron.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes.
Appreciate that, committee. I'm going to assign that to Representative Campbell, and we'll be backed up by the good former chairman of Revenue, Vice Chair Harshman, if we need it upstairs. So with that, we are going to go ahead and keep moving. It is 1:14 for the committee's knowledge, and we are going to go on to Senate File 66. Good Senator French is here to present his bill. And there is one online comment or a potential comment on that. But with that, welcome, Senator French. Please present your bill. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. Nice of you to hear this. This bill was brought to me by the Disabled Hunters group up in Park County, my area, northwest corner of the state, Cody area. And they just do tremendous work up there, a lot of volunteers. And for transparency, I get a couple landowner tags for antelope each year, and I donate one of them to this group. And then I think they have well over 100 applicants right now for the tags that they put out, from all over the United States. So it's just a tremendous program and a lot of great volunteers. They asked if I would bring this bill on their behalf, and I'll go through it real quickly, sir.
Probably hop right to page 2.
Pardon?
We could probably hop right to page 2 where the.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
skip to page 2 if you
You
like.
guys are pretty bright up here on this committee, so we'll.
Their
we'll
amendment,
drag 'em along.
I'll go through the bill as it is. I know the person online wants to make a comment because he's a member of that group, and he'll have some great comments. And if I may ask Director Game and Fish to come up and comment too as I go through.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, sir. The bill, it's on page 4, they wanted to strike where it says 20 years of age or younger. They wanted it to say not less than 12 years of age. And I'm sure there will be an amendment or comment on that as we go along. Further down on page 2, they wanted on 18, it says disabilities and it says or. They wanted to strike or, so it's not a either or thing. It would read disabilities, a person with a permanent disability on line 19 who uses a wheelchair, or a person who is vision impaired. And then the same down and line 22 at the end of that line, it starts, it says, and then continuing on line 23, a person who is vision impaired. The group is wanting, if you back up on page 2, up there where it talks about the ages, not less than, or less than 20, not less than 12, they're going to have definite comments on that one. This is a work in progress committee. A lot of new information, discussions between the person online and Game and Fish in the last few days. They're just trying to make this bill so they don't exclude anybody that's disabled. They can work with anybody and help them out and hopefully have a successful hunt. So if I may, Mr. Chairman, call the Director Game and Fish up.
Yeah, thank you, Senator French. Thanks for going through it. Let's go ahead and bring the department up and welcome Director Bruce. Please feel free to have some discussion on the current form of this bill.
Yeah, so thank you. I'll start with the first section regarding the age issue. Currently, by commission regulation, we have the ability to give out 50 of each species: antelope, deer, elk, and wild turkey. So a total of 200 available. The average over the last 2 years has been 53 across all species. So therefore, there's some availability there. Wanting to paint that picture for you. Working with Senator French, as we look at this bill more and more, we should have caught this earlier, but when it comes to turkey hunting, you can hunt turkeys less than 12. And so we reviewed the statistics, and since 2022, there's been 7 turkey license issued to youth, and 2 of those applicants were less than 12 at the time. So this could prevent those from happening in the future. So what we are proposing, what we talked to Senator French about, is on page 2, line 5, to address that issue and not to exclude people less than 12 from turkey hunting, would be just to delete not less than 12 years of age.
So thank you, Director. My understanding would be that it would draw it back in line with your current policy if we so choose to strike that. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Continue.
Okay, and then also I just would like to point out when it comes to this new qualifier for vision, a person who is vision impaired. There isn't a definition in the proposed bill, but we do have a commission regulation with a definition that we're comfortable with and implementing it. So that is not an issue for us.
Thank you for that clarity. Senator French, any comments on those 2 comments?
No, thank you, Director. Again, the Disabled Hunters Group, the person, Terry Skinner, that will be online, if you call on him, will comment on K down there. They want to add, after a permanent disability who uses a wheelchair, a person with life-threatening illnesses. So he can better explain the things that he's been working with the Game and Fish the last few days to try to get this to where they don't have to come back before the legislature, and individuals that are disabled, they can accommodate everybody and help them. So if I may, Mr. Chairman, upon your discretion, if you could call on him.
Yeah, I'll get there.
Also-
I'm going to ask
Okay.
this committee, do you have any questions of the director, the senator? Before we hop that direction, any questions? Director Bruce, please feel free to sit back if you'd like, and Senator French, please stay up here in case we do have to have some back and forth. Anyone in the room to comment on Senate File 66? Anyone in the room, public comment, Senate File 66? All right, let's go ahead and admit Terry Skinner, and go ahead and unmute yourself, and let's test our technology, make sure we can hear you, and then we'll proceed as soon as that's done.
Mr. Chairman, Terry Skinner is joined. We just need them to unmute and turn their video on.
Okay, thank you, Terry Skinner. Please unmute, admit yourself in, and make sure your video is activated. Oh. And I will, as you get into the room here, if you can hear us, I do want to get to Senate Joint Resolution 9. So I think this bill can be in pretty good shape if we have some time to work it sounds like. And with that, go ahead and try to talk to the mic. Let's just make sure we can hear you.
Can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, we got you. Welcome.
Okay. Again, my name's Terry Skinner. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this Senate File 66. I'm an 8-year member of Wyoming Disabled Hunters, where I served as president the last 5 years before stepping down last year. Wyoming Disabled Hunters has coordinated over 370 disabled hunters since 2009, accumulating really remarkable experience with game and fish regulations and coordinating through a huge multitude of applicants' disabilities. Game and Fish has an awesome donated tag program for the disabled community, which we very much appreciate. Currently, to qualify for a donated tag, one must be a 50% or higher VA-rated service-connected veteran or have a permanent disability who uses a wheelchair. Senate File 66 involves some minor revisions to allow individuals of any age with life-threatening illnesses and or individuals with vision impairments to also qualify for a donated big game or turkey tag that's sponsored by a nonprofit charitable organization. So if I could speak to separately Section J and K, Director Bruce mentioned about the complementary licenses in Section J, 50 licenses each to antelope, deer, elk, and turkey that are donated to persons with life-threatening illnesses. Those licenses are purchased by a nonprofit charitable organization for their selected hunters. The original change where the wording of 20 years of age or younger was stricken and age 12 or older was inserted because it unfairly omitted those persons between 12 and 20. As Senator French spoke to, over the last 3 to 4 days, we became aware of 2 unintended consequences. One that Director Bruce spoke to, the age 12 and older insertion resulted in children that were younger than 12 with life-threatening illnesses from qualifying to receive a donated turkey license. We certainly don't want to unfairly exclude children from qualifying through these proposed changes. A second unintended consequence was omitting children with life-threatening illnesses from receiving a donated big game tag in the year they turn 12. Wyoming regs and Wyoming state statute allow children to hunt big game at the age of 11 if they turn 12 by the end of that calendar year. The original change where it stated age 12 and older would have precluded those children from receiving a donated big game tag until they reach the age of 12. Again, we don't want to exclude such children.
Yeah, Mr. Skinner, I think we got there with the director. So if you want to fast forward on your testimony to something that is, I think, a little more confusing to me in that K section.
Okay, regarding section K, the original language involving SF 66 excluded vision impaired hunters from receiving a donated tag, which is problematic for resident hunters targeting hard to obtain species or hunt areas, plus non-resident hunters facing even more challenging odds. The initial change was to include people who are vision impaired that can qualify for a donate tag besides those veterans and wheelchair users. Vision impaired hunters face a significant physical disadvantage like veterans and wheelchair users when it comes to big game hunting, and therefore should also qualify for a donated tag. Amendment 2K that Senator French spoke to was to add people with life-threatening illnesses to also receive a donated tag under Section K. Language in Section K applies to tags purchased by volunteer local individual supporters who apply to draw tags with the intent to donate those tags for the benefit of selected hunters coordinated by nonprofit charitable hunting organizations. This scenario is a bit different than Section J that involves complimentary licenses that are applied for and actually purchased by the organization themselves. Depending on the number of hunters, the cost can become burdensome for such nonprofits operating on a limited fiscal budget, particularly considering the resident versus non-resident cost differences. Consequently, to reduce that potential financial impact to nonprofits offering big game hunts, it was felt necessary to add this life-threatening language into Section K. And then additionally, one other item was to proposing to strike the language after the word opportunities in the first sentence on line 22 of page 2 to simply clean up that duplicative unnecessary language. So if I may, I'll just read K for the benefit of the committee. The holder of this would be the revised proposed language that Wyoming Disabled Hunters is suggesting.
Hey, Mr. Skinner, I think we have that exactly as you already described it. You did such a good job. So I am confident that our LSO, I just got a nod here in the basement of the extension that we have that exact language. And I do, you're more than welcome to read it, but I think we're in good shape with your proposed changes.
If I may, I would like to, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, we do want to get to another bill, so I think we're going to be in good shape. So, yep, there we can confirm it. But go ahead and proceed, and then we're going to move forward.
Okay. Starting with line 17, license to the department for reissuance to a veteran with disabilities, comma, a person with a permanent disability who uses a wheelchair, comma, a person with life-threatening illnesses, comma, or a person who is vision impaired as established by commission rule and regulations selected and sponsored by a nonprofit charitable organization providing hunting opportunities, period. Then strike out that language after opportunities with the remaining part of line 22, all of 23, and then line 1 on page 3 where it says disability who uses a wheelchair.
That's what we have. Yep. Thank you for that clarity. Is there any other comments, public comments from you, Mr. Skinner, on that proposal? I know that the committee has it accurately written down and LSO does too. So any other comments?
Appreciate the committee listening to the public comment and would welcome any questions by the committee and Mr. Chairman.
I appreciate you taking time today, Mr. Skinner, to join us, albeit virtually. That's just great. And I thank you for doing the extra, what sounds like the extra lift on this on our behalf. So I think we may have some questions of committee. Anything, committee? Oh, seeing none, you're off the hook. I really appreciate that. Stay tuned in and we'll see where we can get this here today. Thank you. Any other public comment in the room? Any other, not seeing any other public comment. I'm going to close public comment, but I will invite the director or the department, if they so choose, to maybe shed some light on this kind of the change. It's a big change to the bill, but I think we're all on the same page, and just love to hear the take of the good director.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, what I heard there is this additional of a person with life-threatening illnesses. And this conversation started with our commission at our January meeting where the president of the commission talked about wanting to do just this. So we have no issues with that additional amendment suggestion, so.
Thank you, Director. Thank you. And committee, that was quick. Any questions? Thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and no one's jumping up, close public comment. Committee, we are going to work Senate File 66, page 1. Anything? Oh, sorry. Do we have Representative Harshman has moved the bill and it's been seconded by Representative Campbell. Let's go and work it. Page 1. Any changes? Seeing none. I do have a change on page 2 as suggested, line 5. Folks listening and those paying attention up here, 20 is already stricken. And then I will continue to strike the remainder of that sentence beginning at not less than 12 years of age. So it will read, use by persons, I even confused myself, use by persons with life-threatening illnesses who are sponsored by. Yep, that's my proposed amendment. Committee, any questions? Do I have a second? Seconded by Representative Campbell. Although, let's go ahead and vote on that. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. That passes. Thank you for that. And then continuing on page 2, getting to lines 13, 14, and K. Any amendments? Representative Campbell on, please.
I always forget that. I imagine our fabulous staff has already captured proposed language, so I would move that we adopt said language.
And Libby, if you don't mind, for everyone listening
Reading it
online,
back.
yeah, let's read it back just so the committee's all on the same page and our folks out in Zoom land are listening. They got it right too.
Mr. Chairman, page 2, line 19, to read, uses a wheelchair, a person with a life-threatening illness, or a person who is vision impaired. Continuing on, as established by commission rule and regulation, selected and sponsored by a nonprofit charitable organization providing hunting opportunities, period. Striking the rest of line 22, line 23, and line 1 on page 3 through wheelchair, period.
Thank you, Libby. That's great. Committee, did you track that? I think everyone tracked that. Great. It's been, moved by Representative, suggested by Representative Campbell, seconded by Representative Thayer. Any comments or questions on that? Question being called. All those in favor of that amendment say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. That carries and is now in the bill. Committee, any other comments on this good Senate File 66? Question. I'm going to quickly mention, Senator, that I have had the opportunity to participate as a volunteer on some of these hunts in my neck of the woods with folks in wheelchairs and other different disabilities. And it is one of the most special days I've spent in the woods. So thank you for bringing this and clearing it up. And that's pretty good catch. And thanks for continuing to work with the department on this. And I think we're going to have a good product coming out of this committee. Representative Harshman.
Yeah, just to echo, Mr. Chairman, really might be one of the better bills of the session. Really a good job, and Mr. Skinner and all the good work they do. And so really appreciate it. Good job. Thank you.
Committee, any other comments before we do a vote? Seeing none, we're going to have a roll call vote on Senate File 66 as amended.
Representative Campbell.
Aye.
Representative Connolly. Representative Harshman. Representative Jarvis.
Aye.
Representative Provenza.
Aye.
Representative Storer. Representative Thayer. Representative Wharf.
Left an aye vote.
Chairman Byron.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 9 ayes.
And I will, Senator, work with you, or we'll have a chat with some of these co-sponsors on this bill and we'll have them carry it upstairs. So thank you. With that, committee, we are 1:35 and we might need more time, so it could continue on to Tuesday, but I think we got a pretty good little Senate Joint Resolution 9 here. And Senator Barlow is here to present it. Welcome, Senator Barlow, to House TRW.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. This was my second committee assignment when I was a House member. Worked under the very fine former representative from your community, Ruth Ann Petroff, Chairman Petroff. So it's a pleasure to be here. Eric Barlow, Senate District 3. Mr. Chairman, would you do a poll of the audience to see how many people want to testify on this bill? That'll tell us how much time we have and how.
If you are here to testify on this bill, please raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay, they all get about 15 seconds in favor of. And I'm going to say it, anyone opposed to this bill, if you're in here opposed to this bill, dare you raise your hand. I don't see any. Senator Barlow, continue. We have about 20 behind you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'm going to be very brief. Mr. Chairman, as I traveled the state in the last 6 months, and I heard a lot of the interest of people of Wyoming. And as you know, there was some news that came out of Washington, D.C. that got people very interested in what's the proposals on our public lands. So as I traveled the state, hearing from folks, it just made sense to actually have a statement that affirms our belief in public lands and their role in our state and in our lives, our communities, our personal lives, and the things we do, whether we recreate, we in agriculture, or we're in the mineral industry, et cetera, all those multiple uses. So that's what this bill is about. It's about affirming our heritage in public lands and the posterity we believe in. And I don't do the whereases. I'm just telling you, that outlines all different kinds of things. We can go through that. So I just turn to the back page of this resolution, and I want to just walk through those specific things. And this starts on page 5. And I think the whereases are important. Don't get me wrong. But really, the crux of it, the ultimate outcome is, what do we want to communicate to Congress? And for me, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, that starts on page 5, line 16. First, we oppose a wholesale fire sale of our public lands. It's not what this says, but that's how I describe it. Broad, indiscriminate sale or exchange. The next one is line 22. We want respect. Go down to 22 and 23, local voices. The voice of the people that live, work, and enjoy, recreate on these lands. Next page, Mr. Chairman. Section 3 is, well, we understand that there are responsible ways to handle this, and the current law allows that. Does it need to be improved? No question. But we have a framework, and we should respect that. When we have locally supported land exchanges, adjustments, or disposals, we should have those conversations starting from the grassroots, not from the top down. In full disclosure, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, my family participated in one of these land exchanges 25 years ago. And to speak to the inefficiency of some of the current system, at least at that time, it took 11 years, and the value of the land, the cost of the exchange costs the same as the value of the land that was exchanged because of time and legal fees, et cetera. So there's certainly a way it can be done more efficiently, I would propose. And that's what we should expect, more efficient way. And then finally, section 4's into 9, 10, 11, 12 on page 6, just talks about we have to actually have the resources to manage these lands, protect these lands effectively, both from our federal government partners, but also the state level for the roles we have, such as our Game and Fish, our Department of Environmental Quality for water quality issues, land quality for those type of things. So, Mr. Chairman, hopefully you're going to hear some stories, and those are actually the things that make a difference. Make a difference, I think, for Wyoming, for what we appreciate and what we'll continue to enjoy going forward. So I'd be glad to stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman, but I think I'd like to hear the folks behind you. and tell their stories and what it means to them. Thank you,
Senator
Mr.
Barlow,
Chairman.
thank you for that, and thank you for being concise. Committee, any questions of Senator Barlow? Don't go far, stick around. Let's fill these chairs up, folks. I want to try to hear from everyone. It is 1:40. Come on, there's a lot more hands up. Come on, Colton. We haven't even heard from you this year, I don't think. We don't know what to do. And those online, we'll try to get to you. I've actually heard from a number of the folks online, so thank you for reaching out. With that, let's start with our agency, and sorry I didn't invite other agency up first, but welcome, Mr. Floyd. Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Director Glenn apologizes for not being here. I just wanted to give you some statistics real quick to reinforce the point there from the recreation perspective. If you ask our federal land managers at any given time, the human beings out on those federal public lands, 95% of those folks are there for recreation. And that's why the economic impact in our state's economy is so huge. It's $2.1 billion of our GDP, and those numbers are already 3 or 4 years old. So we'll get some new numbers for you here shortly. And that rate is going up about 5% a year in terms of the economic impact of outdoor recreation in Wyoming. For our agency specifically, that impact is $781 million. Again, those are 5-year-old numbers, but that's largely because of our state trails program has the majority of that impact because of the state trails we have on our federal lands, the snowmobile, ORV routes, things like that, massive impact. And in terms of our visitors to our state parks, about half of those are from out of state, so 2.5 million people, and they come here for outdoor recreation a lot of times. You know, I was at the Governor's Prayer Breakfast this morning. We heard from Luke Bryan, and he talked about, you know, what he loves about Wyoming, and it's the outdoors. He and I grew up about 75 miles away from each other, and, you know, the bug got me too. And that's why I'm here. So we love our public lands, and they're obviously a big part of our agency, but an even bigger part of our economy in Wyoming. So we appreciate attention to issues around access and the preservation of that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Appreciate that. Committee, any questions, Mr. Floyd? Thank you for representing state parks today. Really appreciate that. Let's continue and go ahead and fill the chairs in as folks exit.
Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Alex Aguirre, representing the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. Standing in support of this resolution, but I just want to go back to a personal level. Like, I'm a Wyoming grown boy. I spend as much as my free time as I can in the mountains of Wyoming. Called the Absarokas home and ride my horse hundreds of miles on the trails. I've worked on the trails. I've cut trees out of them. They just mean a lot to me, and this resolution embodies that. So I support it a lot, and we'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Mr. Gary, thank you for being here. Committee, any questions of him? Not seeing any, we'll continue. Familiar face.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, it's good to see you guys this year. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Colton Schick. I work for Wyoming Wildlife Federation now, but more importantly, I'm a representative of the youth generation of sportsmen and women. And it's been a really unique opportunity. The position I've been in the last year has been serving the Wyoming FFA as the state vice president, and I've gotten to meet a lot of young men and women who take advantage of the public lands. And one of these young men, his name is Colt Messerly. He grew up in Star Valley. He's 17 years old right now. He does leather work. He's just a real cowboy, and he knows how to use the public lands. And he reached out and he wrote a letter about this in support of SJ 9. So I'll go ahead and read a few little bits out of that, if that's all right with you guys. Great. I'm writing in strong support of SJ number 9 and the protection of public lands and public access. These lands are more than scenery. They represent opportunity, livelihood, and heritage. For individuals like myself, they shape our way of life and provide a path toward our future careers. Preserving public lands ensures that people of every generation, young, old, and those who come can continue to build meaningful connections with the outdoors. Hunting, fishing, riding, hiking, and exploring these spaces creates lifelong memories, teach responsibility and respect for nature, and pass on traditions that define Wyoming's identity. I urge you to keep public lands public and accessible. So that's from him. And from me, thank you guys for your support, and hope this keeps moving. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members.
Thank you. Welcome back. And man, great comments from someone probably from pretty close to my district. Please introduce yourself and anyone. Yep, keep filling these chairs. Go ahead. Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you. My name is Tori Roothouse. I'm a resident of Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I serve as marketing manager for Aero Precision, Stag Arms, and Ballistic Advantage, collectively one of the largest firearm manufacturing groups in the world. I am here today on behalf of the companies I represent and as a Wyoming constituent in strong support of this bill. I moved to Wyoming nearly 3 years ago from Missouri, a state where public land access is limited and outdoor opportunity is often dependent on private ownership. Moving here showed me something different. In Wyoming, access to public land is not reserved for a few, but available to everyone willing to responsibly use it. That access is what allows residents like me to fully participate in hunting, recreation, and responsible firearm ownership. It also directly supports the industry I work in. The firearms manufacturing sector depends on active participation in outdoor traditions, and those traditions depend on accessible public lands. When decisions affecting Wyoming's public lands are made without strong local input, the consequences are felt not only by recreationists, but by Wyoming workers, businesses, and communities connected to those opportunities. Wyoming has long demonstrated that those closest to the land are its best stewards. This bill ensures Wyoming maintains a meaningful voice in decisions that directly affect our access, our heritage, and our economy. Because when access to public lands is protected, Wyoming's traditions and the industries built around them remain strong for generations to come. For these reasons, I respectfully urge your support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Thank you for that testimony. I really appreciate that. We'll work back from my right to my left, your left to your right, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. Era Arano, on behalf of Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, our members decide our policies, and we oppose the sale of public lands without a full environmental review and meaningful public comment. Therefore, we support this bill. On a personal note, when I am not down here in front of you at the legislature, I make the rest of my income guiding folks on public lands and volunteering and search and rescue. So it's personally important as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Please.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm Donna Burkholtz, the Executive Director of Powder River Basin Resource Council. As you know, we are a statewide member-driven organization, and among our members' concerns is the importance of public lands for our state and its citizens. Our members oppose the privatization of public lands. It is gratifying, and I'm sure you've noticed this as well over the course of this particular piece of legislation, to see how across the spectrum, the vast majority of folks in Wyoming all share this same value. At a time when we too often see division, our appreciation of public lands unites the people of Wyoming. We stand in support of Senate File 9 because this resolution voices support for keeping public lands in public hands by opposing any state or federal legislation or policy that promotes broad or indiscriminate sale or exchange of those lands. The resolution supports multiple uses on public lands and calls on the federal government to respect existing land management frameworks, county land use plans, and the voices of local communities most directly affected by federal land decisions. Thank you. I stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Burkholtz. Appreciate that. Committee, any questions? We have about 10 minutes. We got to go upstairs. Really appreciate that. With that, we're going to continue on, and we may get to the online portion. We may not. We'll keep working this. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be quick. Anna Kaufman with the Wyoming Outdoor Council. Our mission statement is that we are here to protect the environment and quality of life of Wyoming now and for future generations. So I'm here representing all of our membership who are incredibly passionate supporters of our public lands. And on a personal note, I fell in love with Wyoming on our public lands. And as somebody who got her first elk on public lands this year, I think they're pretty much the best idea that we've had here in Wyoming. And we should make sure that Wyoming voices are prioritized when we're managing them. So we stand in full support of the resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman, and thank you for that personal story. We love that. That's great. Please continue.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Holly Kennedy here today representing the Wyoming Association of Conservation Districts and our 34 conservation districts across the state. I will be brief. I do appreciate you guys trying to get this bill in today. I just wanted to read for you a policy, or I'll just read a portion of it, that was passed this fall. And boy, it makes it almost sound like we authored this bill ourselves. So we're really appreciative of the bringer of the bill and what a great job he did on it. WACD formally opposes the sale, transfer, or privatization of public lands at the federal, state, or local level, except in cases of limited and clearly justified local public interest, subject to rigorous environmental and public oversight of federal lands. Pretty spot on. So to say we support the bill would be an understatement. We really appreciate the bill. We really appreciate what it's getting at, and really appreciate all of you working on it and giving it the time today. Thank you.
We appreciate you being here. Thank you for that statement, and thank you for the good representation you have of all those other folks across the state. Thank you for your work there. Committee, any questions, any comments? Really, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Committee, I just checked our schedule and I learned this from my good vice chair. They can wait for us upstairs. We got more important stuff to do down here. So we're going to keep going. Why leave the best committee in the house and go upstairs? So let's please, Mr. Garrett, and then those online, we're going to go to you next. Andy Blair, go ahead and start getting ready for your comments. Please, Mr. Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was struggling with whether I should offer comments or not, but given the going into overtime, that's good news. My name is Richard Garrett. I'm here today representing the Greater Yellowstone Coalition. I think the only thing I can add is how well-timed this resolution is. It's really important that we use our outdoor voice in Washington, D.C. At a time when so many there are trying to use their outdoor voice to take over our public lands in the state of Wyoming. Even just yesterday, there was a hearing on a nominee for BLM director, and that person, as I understand it, is very much in favor of disposing of public land. So, as I say, the timing could not be better. Grateful for your consideration. Ready to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett, and thank you for bringing that voice from the GYC committee. Any questions or comments with Mr. Garrett? Really appreciate. We'll go into overtime. We'll stay into overtime. With that, we're going to hop online. Our first up is going to be Andy Blair, if he's available. He or she is available. I did hear from, I think we all might have gotten an email from Andy Blair, but please welcome. Go ahead and introduce yourself. We're going to try to get through this pretty quick and maybe get back to on time here in a bit.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Andy Blair. I'm the Director of Public Policy for the National Outdoor Leadership School. Thank you for this opportunity to testify in support of SJ9. As you all may know, Knowles is a 501c3 nonprofit educational institution. We were established in 1986. We're headquartered in Lander. We have campuses in a variety of places around the planet. We have over 300,000 alumni, and fully a third of those have come through Wyoming. A recent University of Wyoming economic impact study found that Knowles is one of the top 1% employers in the state of Wyoming and has an annual economic impact in the state of just under $19 million. And all of this depends on access to public lands for us to run our courses. Knowles is only one of Wyoming's outfitter and guide community that supports the $2 billion industry, Wyoming's second largest, and we all depend on public lands to run our businesses. And SJ9 sends a strong message of support for Wyoming outfitter and guide community, and I really appreciate you all hearing that joint resolution today. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Blair. Really appreciate you taking your time from so far away and the good work that you and Knowles do. With that, we are going to go on to potentially Tracy, if she can let her in.
Yes, Tracy has been invited in, Mr. Chairman.
And then Ms. Tillman, you're going to be on deck here. So,
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Tillman is not online.
She's not online. All right. She's not going to be on deck then. We're going to wrap it up with Tracy. If she can get in, unmute yourself.
Hello.
Oh, we can hear you.
Great. Can you see me?
Not yet, but that might come. Go ahead and continue.
All right.
it's important we just hear you for now.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Byron and members of the committee for allowing me to speak today. My name's Tracy McClinic. My husband Joe and I live in DuBois and we raise our children in this community. We also own and operate a small guest ranch and outfitting business here. We're members of the DuBois Outfitters Association, the Wyoming Outfitters and Guides Association, National Bighorn Sheep Center, the DuBois Chamber of Commerce, and Wyoming Keep It Public. Because public lands are valuable to the people of Wyoming and our culture and lifestyle across the state, there should be additional layers of protections that allow communities and individuals to provide input when considering impactful change, especially change that is motivated by external pressures or motives that do not align with the Wyoming ethics and lifestyle. And especially change that would have a permanent and irreversible ripple effect upon our wildlands, our wildlife, and our wild individuals. I want to express my support for this bill and take the opportunity to encourage others in our communities and within this room to guide friends, family members, strangers to love Wyoming in the same way that we do. I have the privilege of guiding the public on public lands, and it's an honor to give a person the opportunity to see beautiful places and to enjoy these publicly owned treasures. Other friends have had more experience biking, fishing, hunting, riding. They invited me to join them here years ago, and my husband guided me here, and it's like being given a gift. It's a true gift to experience, explore, and fall in love with our public lands. So I encourage everyone to open a friend's eyes to the beauty and value of this state and give them the confidence to embrace the outdoors and the wildlife and the wildlands and help them get past the insecurity of exploring the unknown. Again, I have the privilege of doing this as a professional, but I encourage you all to invite a friend or a stranger to enjoy you out there and let them see what they're missing. Again, I support SJ9, and I also want to thank the folks from CAMO and the Capitol who helped me and guided me through the wildlands of the legislative session so that I could have a voice here speaking with you all today. Thank you.
Really appreciate that testimony. And yeah, it was great to see you, Tracy, down here at Campbell at the Capitol. Come back whenever you want. We need your voice down here. With that, and seeing no one else in the room, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment committee. What's your pleasure on Senate Joint Resolution 9? Moved by Representative Provenza and seconded by Representative Jarvis. Committee, just in the consideration of time at 1:57, even though I want to go into overtime, let's go ahead and any amendments to it? It's a clean bill from the Senate. Seeing none, we can certainly probably all comment on it. I think we'll also have a chance to comment on it upstairs, but I do not want to hold anyone back because it is such an important topic. So any comments before we take a vote on SJ9? Representative Provenza, I should have known you were going to talk.
You're shocked. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just want to thank the bringer of the bill. I'm proud to sponsor this bill. I stood on the Capitol steps this summer and I had over 500 people call our senators and our congresswoman to say that public lands are not for sale. And they didn't call me back. So I hope they appreciate the letter. Thank you, Senator Barlow.
Committee, any other comments? Representative Harshman, please.
Mr. Chairman, and as you look at the list of co-sponsors, it's 8 of the 9 on this committee. And so appreciate the former speaker. And yeah, you think of the issues with this and then the corner crossing, we're really, we're doing some real good. So appreciate the bringer and including us as well. I'm proud to take it on to the House side now. Thank you.
Committee, any more comments before we go to a roll call vote? Representative Jarvis? Nothing? Okay. Representative Campbell, you good? Okay, question being called, and I do, Senator Barlow, we will ask you, we're not going to fight it out up here, so you can take it and pick one of us or pick any of the dozens of other sponsors on this and carry it upstairs. I will quickly comment, I did engage with some of our folks out in DC and a senator out there when this was all happening last fall and well, throughout the last year, and had some good conversations, and I think this sends a very strong message and really, really appreciate the bringer. So with that, we are going to go to Senate Joint Resolution 9, roll call vote.
Representative Campbell. Aye. Representative Connolly.
Aye.
Representative Harshman. Aye. Representative Jarvis.
Aye.
Representative Provenza.
Aye.
Representative Storer.
Representative Storer left an aye vote.
Representative Thayer. Representative Wharf.
Left a no vote.
Chairman Byron.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes, 1 no.
Thank you. And with that committee, we are adjourned. And please know that tomorrow, interim topics are due. So if you don't get it done today or first thing in the morning, we're running into a wall there. Thank you, everyone, for being